Welcome to Mr. Horror. Today, we have 3 true creepy hide-and-seek horror stories that will give you nightmares. From haunted prisons to ghostly whispers, these stories will leave you on the edge of your seat. It was a typical Friday night, and a group of friends decided to play hide-and-seek in an old abandoned mansion in the woods. They had heard rumors about the place being haunted, but they didn't believe in ghosts. As the game began, everyone scattered in different directions, searching for the perfect hiding spot. One of the friends, a young girl, found a closet and decided to hide inside. She waited in the dark, trying not to make a sound. But as time passed, she began to feel uneasy. It was as if someone or something was watching her from outside the closet. She tried to shake off the feeling, but it only grew stronger. Suddenly, she heard footsteps approaching the closet. She held her breath, hoping that whoever it was would pass by. But the footsteps stopped right outside the closet door. The girl's heart raced as she heard the sound of someone breathing heavily. She didn't dare to move or make a sound, but the breathing only grew louder. Just as she thought she couldn't take it anymore, the closet door slowly creaked open. The girl closed her eyes, too scared to see what was in front of her. But when she opened them again, there was no one there. The hallway was empty, and the breathing had stopped. The girl let out a sigh of relief, thinking it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. As she stepped out of the closet, she realized that something was off. The mansion was eerily quiet, and none of her friends had come to find her yet. She called out their names, but there was no answer. Suddenly, she heard a faint whisper coming from upstairs. She cautiously climbed the stairs, and as she reached the top, she saw something that made her blood run cold. As the girl reached the top of the stairs, she saw a figure standing in the hallway. It was a woman with long black hair and a white gown. The woman's face was covered with her hair, and she seemed to be staring straight ahead. The girl tried to back away slowly, but her foot bumped into something on the floor, and it made a loud noise. The woman turned her head slowly, and the girl saw her face for the first time. It was twisted in a grotesque expression, and her eyes were empty, as if she were possessed by some evil force. The girl froze in fear, unable to move as the woman started walking towards her. Suddenly, the girl heard her friends calling out to her. She turned around and saw them at the end of the hallway. They were all standing there, looking pale and frightened. The girl ran towards them, and they all started running down the stairs. But as they reached the bottom, they realized that something was wrong. The doors and windows were all locked, and they couldn't get out. They tried to call for help, but their phones had no signal. They were trapped in the mansion with no way out, and the woman was still lurking somewhere in the house. They decided to split up and search for a way out. One of the friends found a hidden door in the basement, but it was locked from the other side. As they searched for a key, they heard strange noises coming from the walls. It sounded like someone was scratching the surface, trying to get out. The girl remembered the rumors about the mansion being haunted by a woman who was buried alive in the walls. She tried to shake off the thought, but the scratching noises only grew louder. As they continued searching for the key, they found a room with an old diary. It belonged to the woman who was buried alive, and it told the story of how she was betrayed by her husband and left to die in the walls. The girl and her friends realized that they had stumbled upon something far more sinister than they had anticipated. The woman they had seen was the vengeful spirit of the woman who had been buried alive. The group was now convinced that they were dealing with an evil force that was out to get them. They knew that they had to find a way out of the mansion before it was too late. As they searched for the key to the hidden door, they heard footsteps coming from upstairs. The girl's heart raced as she realized that the woman was coming for them. They all hid in the basement, hoping that the woman wouldn't find them, but she seemed to know where they were, and the scratching noises only grew louder. Just as they thought they were doomed, they heard a voice calling out to them. It was the voice of a man who had somehow found his way into the mansion. The man had come to investigate the rumors about the mansion and had stumbled upon the group by chance. He knew how to exorcise evil spirits and offered to help them. Together, they performed a ritual to cleanse the mansion of the evil force that had been haunting it. The woman's spirit was finally put to rest, and the scratching noises stopped. The group was finally able to find the key to the hidden door and escape the mansion. They reported the incident to the authorities, who investigated and found evidence of the woman's murder. The group had survived the horrors of the mansion, but they were forever scarred by the experience. They learned that some legends and rumors hold a grain of truth and that some places are best left unexplored. In the end, the girl and her friends knew that they had been lucky to survive. They had witnessed firsthand the true horror of what can happen when a place is left to decay and become the haunt of evil spirits. The girl decided to share her story with others, hoping that it would serve as a warning to those who might be tempted to explore abandoned places. She knew that some things were better left unknown, and that sometimes the truth can be far more terrifying than fiction. The sun had set and the moon was rising high, casting an eerie glow on the abandoned mansion that loomed in the distance. A group of friends had gathered to explore the decaying structure, and as they arrived, they decided to play a game of hide and seek within its walls. One of the friends, a young woman named Jess, wandered through the mansion, searching for a hiding spot. As she explored the dusty rooms and creaky halls, she felt a strange sensation creeping over her. It was as if she were being watched. Ignoring the feeling, Jess found a small closet and stepped inside. She closed the door and waited in the dark, trying to keep quiet so no one would find her. But as time passed, the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. Jess couldn't shake the sense that something was lurking outside the closet door. She held her breath, waiting for the game to end. Suddenly, she heard a soft shuffling sound outside the closet. It was so quiet that she almost thought it was her imagination, but then she heard it again, closer this time. Jess's heart began to race as she realized that someone or something was right outside the door. She wanted to run, to scream, to do anything to get away, but fear kept her rooted to the spot. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the shuffling sound stopped. Jess waited for what felt like an eternity, but no one came to find her. When she finally emerged from the closet, she found the mansion empty and her friends gone. Jess felt a chill run down her spine. She knew she wasn't alone in the mansion. Something was there, watching and waiting in the shadows. As she continued to explore the mansion, she started to notice strange things happening around her. Doors would creak open on their own, and she would catch glimpses of shadowy figures out of the corner of her eyes. One night, while wandering through the mansion alone, Jess heard a faint whisper coming from one of the rooms. It sounded like a child's voice, and it was calling out for help. Jess cautiously approached the room and pushed open the door. What she saw inside made her blood run cold. There was a little girl standing in the center of the room, her eyes fixed on Jess. The girl was pale and ghostly, and her dress was tattered and stained with blood. Jess realized that she was staring at the spirit of a girl who had died in the mansion many years ago. The little girl beckoned Jess to come closer, and as she did, the spirit vanished. Jess was left standing in the empty room, trembling with fear. From that moment on, Jess knew that she was not alone in the mansion. The spirits of those who had died there were still present, haunting the halls and seeking to make contact with the living. Jess knew that she had to leave the mansion and never return, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching her from the shadows. As the days passed, Jess continued to feel the presence of the spirits in the mansion. Strange things continued to happen. Doors would slam shut, and the sound of children's laughter echoed through the halls. Jess tried to ignore the strange occurrences, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She started to feel like the spirits were trying to communicate with her, but she didn't know what they wanted. One night, Jess decided to do some research about the mansion's history. She discovered that the mansion had been built by a wealthy family in the early 1900s. The family had been known for their extravagant parties and lavish lifestyle, but their fortunes had taken a turn for the worse during the Great Depression. In the 1930s, the mansion had been sold to the state and turned into an asylum for the mentally ill. Patients were subjected to inhumane treatment, and many died within the mansion's walls. Jess realized that the mansion was a place of great sadness and suffering. The spirits that haunted its halls were the ghosts of those who had died there, and they were seeking to make their presence known. One night, Jess was awakened by the sound of a little girl's voice calling out to her. She followed the sound and found herself in the mansion's basement. It was cold and damp, and the smell of mold filled the air. As she walked deeper into the basement, Jess heard the sound of chains rattling. She followed the noise to a dark corner of the room, and what she saw there made her scream. It was a figure chained to the wall, covered in filth and blood. The figure was moaning and groaning in pain, and Jess realized that it was a patient who had been left to die in the asylum's basement. Jess knew that she had to do something to help the patient's spirit move on. She contacted a psychic medium who performed a ritual to help release the patient's soul. After the ritual, Jess felt a sense of peace in the mansion. The spirit seemed to have moved on, and the strange occurrences stopped. Jess realized that she had been chosen to help the spirits find peace. She knew that she would never forget the haunted mansion, but she could finally leave it behind knowing that she had done something to help those who had suffered there. Months passed, and Jess tried to put the memories of the haunted mansion behind her. She returned to her normal life, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the spirits were still with her. One day, she received a package in the mail. It was a small box with a note attached that read, "Thank you for helping us find peace." Jess opened the box and found a locket inside. The locket had belonged to the little girl she had seen in the mansion, and Jess knew that it was a sign that the spirits had moved on. She felt a sense of closure, knowing that she had helped the spirits find peace. Years went by, and Jess forgot about the haunted mansion. But one day, she received a call from an old friend. He told her that the mansion had been renovated and turned into a museum. Jess was hesitant to visit the mansion again, but her curiosity got the best of her. She decided to visit the museum and see how it had changed. As she walked through the halls of the mansion, Jess felt a sense of peace. The once decaying mansion had been transformed into a beautiful museum, and the spirits seemed to have moved on. At the end of her tour, Jess found herself in the basement, the place where she had discovered the patient's spirit. But now, it was a brightly lit room filled with exhibits and displays. As she looked around the room, Jess noticed a small plaque on the wall. It read in memory of the patients who suffered in this asylum. May they find peace in the afterlife. Tears welled up in Jess's eyes as she realized that the spirits had finally found peace. The haunted mansion was no longer a place of sadness and suffering, but a place of remembrance and hope. Jess left the mansion with a sense of closure. She knew that the spirits of the past would always be with her, but now she could finally let go of the haunted mansion and move on with her life. It was a hot summer night, and a group of teenagers had decided to play hide and seek in an old abandoned prison that was rumored to be haunted. The prison had been closed for years, and no one had gone inside it since. As the game began, everyone scattered in different directions, searching for the perfect hiding spot. One of the teenagers, a boy named Mike, found a small cell and decided to hide inside. He closed the door and waited in the dark, trying to keep quiet so no one would find him. But as time passed, Mike began to feel a sense of unease. It was as if someone or something was watching him from outside the cell. He tried to shake off the feeling, but it only grew stronger. Suddenly, he heard a faint whisper coming from outside the cell. It was so soft that he almost thought it was his imagination. But then he heard it again, closer this time. Mike's heart began to race as he realized that someone or something was right outside the door. He wanted to run, to scream, to do anything to get away, but fear kept him rooted to the spot. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the whisper stopped. Mike waited for what felt like an eternity, but no one came to find him. When he finally emerged from the cell, he found the prison empty and his friends gone. Mike felt a chill run down his spine. He knew he wasn't alone in the prison. Something was there, watching and waiting in the shadows. As the days passed, Mike couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He started to feel like he was being followed everywhere he went. A strange sensation made him anxious and paranoid, and he couldn't focus on anything else. One night, Mike had a terrifying nightmare. He dreamt that he was back in the prison, and he was being chased by a ghostly figure. The figure had glowing red eyes and a menacing grin, and it seemed to be getting closer and closer. Mike woke up in a cold sweat, his heart racing. He knew that he couldn't ignore the strange occurrences any longer. He had to confront the presence that haunted him. The next day, Mike decided to return to the prison. He wanted to find out what was causing the strange sensations and put an end to it once and for all. As he wandered through the prison, he noticed that it was even creepier than he remembered. The walls were covered in peeling paint, and the air was musty and stale. He felt like he was walking through a tomb. Mike finally reached the cell where he had heard the whisper. He pushed open the door and stepped inside, determined to face whatever was there. But the cell was empty. There was no one there, and nothing to suggest that anyone had been there recently. Mike felt a sense of disappointment wash over him. He had hoped to find some answers, but now he was more confused than ever. As he turned to leave the cell, he heard a faint whisper again. This time, it was clearer and louder. He followed the sound, and it led him to a small room at the end of the hall. As he stepped inside, he saw a figure sitting in the corner of the room. It was a ghostly figure, glowing in the dim light of the room. Mike felt a sense of fear wash over him, but he didn't run. He knew that he had to confront the figure and find out what it wanted. The figure spoke, its voice barely audible. It told Mike a story of a prisoner who had been wrongly accused and executed in the prison. The prisoner's spirit had never left, and it had been haunting the prison ever since. As Mike listened to the ghostly figure's story, he felt a sense of sadness wash over him. He realized that the prison was a place of great pain and suffering, and that the spirits of those who had died there were still present, seeking to make their presence known. Mike asked the ghostly figure what it wanted from him. The figure replied that it wanted Mike to help it find peace. It was tired of haunting the prison, and it wanted to move on to the afterlife. Mike knew that he had to do something to help the spirit find peace. He contacted a psychic medium who performed a ritual to help release the prisoner's soul. After the ritual, Mike felt a sense of peace in the prison. The spirit seemed to have moved on, and the strange occurrences stopped. But Mike couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He realized that the spirits of the past were still with him, even though they had moved on from the prison. One night, as Mike was walking home, he saw a figure in the distance. It was the ghostly figure from the prison, and it was following him. Mike tried to run, but the figure kept pace with him. He finally stopped and turned to face the figure. The ghostly figure spoke to him, telling him that it was grateful for his help in finding peace. It said that it would always be with him, watching over him and protecting him. Mike felt a sense of comfort wash over him. He knew that he was not alone and that the spirits of the past would always be with him. From that moment on, Mike was never afraid of the strange occurrences again. He knew that the spirits were not there to harm him, but to guide and protect him. He often visited the prison, but now it was a place of remembrance and respect. He left offerings for the spirits and said prayers for their souls. Mike realized that the prison was not a place of fear and horror, but a place of history and memories. And he knew that the spirits of the past would always be with him, watching over him and guiding him on his journey through life. Months passed, and Mike continued to visit the prison, leaving offerings for the spirits and saying prayers for their souls. He felt a sense of peace and comfort whenever he was there, knowing that the spirits of the past were with him. One day, Mike received a call from the psychic medium who had helped him release the prisoner's spirit. The medium told him that she had sensed a disturbance in the prison and that the spirits were becoming restless once again. Mike knew that he had to return to the prison and find out what was causing the disturbance. He gathered his courage and set out to confront the spirits once again. As he entered the prison, Mike felt a sense of dread wash over him. The air was thick with tension and fear, and he knew that something was not right. As he wandered through the halls, he heard strange noises and saw shadows moving in the corners of his vision. He felt like he was being watched, and the feeling of unease grew stronger with each passing moment. Finally, he reached the cell where he had first heard the whisper. He pushed open the door and stepped inside, but this time, there was no one there. Suddenly, he heard a scream coming from down the hall. He ran toward the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. As he turned the corner, he saw a figure standing in the middle of the room. It was the ghostly figure from the prison, and it was glowing with an otherworldly light. The figure spoke to him, telling him that there was a presence in the prison that was causing the spirits to become restless. It was an evil spirit, a presence that had been trapped in the prison for centuries. Mike knew that he had to do something to help the spirits find peace once again. He contacted the psychic medium, and together they performed a ritual to banish the evil spirit from the prison. As they performed the ritual, Mike felt a sense of power coursing through his veins. He knew that he was confronting something ancient and malevolent, something that had been trapped in the prison for centuries. Finally, the ritual was complete, and Mike felt a sense of peace settle over the prison. The spirits were once again at rest, and the evil presence had been banished. Mike knew that the spirits would always be with him, watching over him and guiding him on his journey through life. He left the prison with a sense of closure, knowing that he had helped the spirits find peace once again. Thank you for watching these 3 true creepy hide-and-seek horror stories. We hope you enjoyed these spine-tingling tales and found them entertaining. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Your support means a lot to us, and we look forward to sharing more bone-chilling stories with you in the future. Thanks again for watching.